Welcome to the Golden Com Podcast. Special guest with me today, Doug DeCinces.
Good job.
Doug, walk ahead. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thank you.
Man,
I have to tell you that my name's been pronounced a lot of different ways in my career.
What's the best one? Besides the right one, DeCinces.
I guess when when I was playing baseball and I stole a double down the line off of George Hendricks, and he was with Cleveland, and he came out the next day and he goes, I know Brooks Robinson, but who the hell is this DeClines? And I said, DeClines. And then from that point on, that was my name by all my teammates.
In Baltimore.
Yeah, and it carried because Bobby Grich came from there and everything that came with me. And it was still today, some guys will call me that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So I was going to say one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to talk about things you can't find online, because we can find this historic 15-year career in Major League Baseball online. And did you say Brooks Robinson? Did you say that?
Yeah.
I think you replaced him, didn't you?
I did replaced him while he was still in uniform, which was probably the single toughest task in my career.
Those are pretty big cleats.
Yeah, they were, and it almost buried me.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I was 1 foot in the grave, and then I decided to pick it back up and
Took off. Yeah.
And then, it was, I look back, and probably the single most thing of all my career, forget the statistics and things like that, was the fact that I was able to take his place and go on and have my own career, because there's a whole pile of baseball players who were going to be the next guy, that they just didn't survive it and never had a career. And I look at that and I went, first of all, Brooks Robinson was a wonderful person and a phenomenal baseball player. And, I had to sit and watch him play, and I learned by watching. And then when my time came, I had to be ready. But I look back in my career, people say, what's one of the greatest accomplishments? And I always say, well, being able to do that and survive. Because one time at Baltimore, that's not in the statistics, they were chanting, we want Brooks, about 36,000 fans. And you can hear that when you're on the field. And it almost buried me, that game, but I came back and in that game, and from that point on, I stepped forward.
That is an awesome story. That is an awesome story. And then, well, shoot. So after Baltimore, you kind of a homecoming, because
Yes.
you grew up out here.
Grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, and then you're back back home in Southern California with the California Angels.
Yes.
Is that right? What year was that? Just
1982.
82.
Yeah, and I got traded because I was one of the head guys of the Players Association in 1981 with the strike. And I had kind of a volatile owner at the time, and I knew there was going to be a problem once we settled the case and we all moved on. And it's interesting because after all the years I played for replacing Brooks and playing for Earl Weaver the whole time, who's a Hall of Fame manager, but a very verbose and angrily a verbose manager, meaning umpires hated him and not all his players loved him. Okay. But they were at a meeting and they had this young kid named Cal Ripken Jr. coming up. And the organization wanted him to play third, and Earl said, no way, he's my shortstop, and DeCinces is my third baseman, and we're going to have the best infield in Major League, because he had Eddie Murray at first base, and it's a lot of home runs out of 3 positions. And he left the meeting and said, you're not making that trade, and the owner came in and made the trade. And Earl called me up afterwards. He said, I want to be the first to tell you it was not me. And lo and behold, history proved who was the best longtime shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles was Cal Ripken Jr. In the meantime, they didn't have a third baseman for about 10 years. So that's how I became an Angel.
That's how you became an Angel. And so these are, gosh, now we're getting to baseball, which I love, because like a lot of people growing up, I wanted to be a baseball player when I grew up.
Just like me.
Just like,
it was a dream.
Yeah, it's just a dream. So you've got Carew and Baylor, Gritch, just all
Jackson,
all these
Freddie
guys.
Lynn,
Yeah,
Ryan Downing, Bob
Freddie
Boone.
Freddie was center field.
Yeah.
From the Sox. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing team.
Amazing team. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it'd be very difficult to put that team on the field today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So towards the sunset, after your close to 300 home runs, I would assume, you sunset after 15 years. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us to the golf business.
Okay.
Trying to get us to the golf business.
Okay. Let me get short circuit that just a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
When I was 9 years old, I was listening to Vince Scully on the radio, and he was talking about a player named Dal Maxwell. I can remember it clear as day. My dad's driving, and he's talking about, well, during the off season, Dal Maxwell works in a construction firm, and he's talking about it. And my dad's a general contractor. I'm 9 years old. I said, Dad, I now know what I'm going to be. And he looks at me and he kind of says, what? And I said, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player in the off season. I'm going to be just like Dal Maxwell and work for you. Well, guess what? That's what I did.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No, and I did that. And the next time that was brought up between my dad and I'm driving him to the first World Series game in Baltimore. And he says to me, he goes, do you ever remember telling me what you were going to be? I said, yes, I told you I was going to be a professional baseball player. And he looked and he goes, I didn't even get my question finished. I said, you didn't have to. I knew where you were coming from. But that was, I was one of those kids. So when I retired from baseball, I had opportunities to go coach and do those things. And I wanted to watch my kids grow up and play sports, which they both were successful here in the area doing that. My daughter went to Mater Dei and went to Michigan on a scholarship playing volleyball, and my son went to UCLA and was an All-American there and played 7 years as a pro baseball player. So I got to see that, and I got a couple more phone calls for me to go back and coach with some teammates that now were becoming managers, and each time I said no, because I was involved with doing something as well. That was becoming a developer. And how I got in the golf business goes back to baseball. It's really funny. I played my last year in Japan, and I got to meet this one gentleman and kind of became friends with him. And he was a very successful real estate developer. And he had come and bought the Valencia golf course up in Santa Clarita, very nice golf course. He bought it. And my dad's construction company was redoing the clubhouse, a major redo, when this guy bought it. So think about the connection there. So he calls me and he goes, is your dad by far, is he the contractor on this? I said, yes, he is. And I'm in Japan at the time, and we're talking. And so later on, he called me about, I guess it was about 6 years later, out of the blue, he called me and he said, I want you to help me buy PGA West out in the desert. I said, well, I'm familiar with PGA West. He goes, yes, I just want the stadium course, because I guess he saw it on TV. Of course, everybody. So I went out there and I was negotiating with KKR, and they said, no, we won't just sell the one, but we'll sell you all of them, and here's the price, which was an astronomical price. And I had to tell him that, he goes, well, I'll pay X amount. And I went back. It was a big number just for the golf course. And even then they didn't accept, because they didn't want to let their jewel away from the rest of their program, which is smart on KKR's position. But so he came back, and 6 months later he calls me again and he says, I want to buy Alta Vista in Yorba Linda. And so I put all the numbers together and everything. I went to negotiate, and the owner there was like, well, I'll only sell it for this number. I said, oh, come on, that's twice of what it's worth. He goes, yeah, but that's why I will sell it there. So I had to call him and tell him that, I don't recommend you buy this. And he goes, really? And I said, yes, it's not an area that I think that would be becoming to what you really want to have there. And the golf course was, suspect as far as what it could do, what you could do to enhance it. And he thanked me very much. 2 days later, I got this beautiful present at my front door of my house, and lo and behold, he didn't go buy this. I read about him like 3 days later in Sotheby's out of Santa Monica. He bought some, Picasso worth $90 million, and I about shot myself. I said, he buying a painting for $90 million. Why did I tell him he shouldn't buy this? But I had all those numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. And I was coaching a Connie Mack baseball team, and one of the dads happened to be a land planner, and I was talking to him about some of the things, and he goes, I've got a piece of property over here that you might be interested in. So I went over and walked it, and turns out to be Strawberry Farms. And we put together a partnership, and lo and behold, we went through, and I thought it would take 2.5 years for me to build Strawberry Farms. Well, that was in the middle of a lot of problems with environmentalists and a few other things, and lo and behold, I was marrying the Irvine Ranch Water District, who owned half the property, and the county of Orange County, the other half. Well, just when we're all getting ready to sign the deal, we're at the table, and I've got 7 county people and about 8 water district people, and a secretary comes in and hands the message to the president of IRWD, and he reads it. He gives it to the CFO. CFO gets up and walks out, and the president flips the note over, and he goes, I guess this meeting's over because you guys don't have a job tomorrow. And I went, what? What? And he goes, yeah, Orange County just filed bankruptcy.
Oh.
And why did they file bankruptcy? Guess who pulled $300 million out of their deal? The Irvine Ranch Water District.
Irvine Watch. Oh.
And so I'm sitting there going, well, maybe rightfully so that they probably pulled their money out, but I got this guy and this guy. Suddenly, I've got everything else done, almost 2.5 years, 3 years of work.
What is it, 95? When is this?
This is 94, I think.
94?
I think it was 94,
okay.
90,
yeah,
I'm not
that makes
sure.
sense, yeah.
And then I had to leave that room, find out what was going on, and then the next 2 weeks I was negotiating with both sides. They wouldn't sit together. So I had to negotiate both sides, try and marry their thoughts to come back at me to sign the deal. It was kind of the most interesting bit of negotiations I've ever been in, except for when I negotiated with the Major League Baseball players.
Strike. The 81 strike.
And right. The 85 strike.
Yeah.
And so, but I learned from those, but I turned around and got a 5-0 vote from the Board of Supervisors, and IRWD passed it, and next thing I know, I completed my other partnership with the Pickups and Lane and Donovan group that were half of my partnership as we went forward. And it took me 1 year from shoveling the ground to hitting a golf ball. And that was clubhouse, cart barn.
After all that.
All that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I can't forget Donald Bren threw in 2 miles of a gravity flow sewer system that happened to run right through the center of my golf course. And I had to do that within the year as well.
Is that right? Okay.
So
okay. Doug,
that was my experience to finally getting that done. But instead of 2.5 years, it took me 5.
It took 5 years.
But I didn't give up. It was one of those challenges.
And a county bankruptcy in the middle of it.
Oh, that was hard.
So I want to double click on a couple things, just so I make sure I heard it. So Connie Mack, you're coaching there?
I'm coaching a team.
So is Tim playing in that?
Yeah, Tim was playing in that.
And you got another dad coach?
No, it was another player whose dad was a land planner.
Player. Tim's contemporary.
Yes.
And Tim's contemporary, the dad was a planner.
Yeah, he was the planner, and he started talking. So
What was his name?
his name was John Petke.
John Petke. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's John. And then how did he help, or what was his role in this?
He and his partner, Hardy Strozier.
Hardy. Okay.
Hardy Strozier.
Yep.
They were land planners and environmental planners because this property had a ton of environmental protected plants, birds, and everything on it.
So they're private company people, not
Yes.
government people.
No,
And they cities hire them to do land planning, master
Yes,
planning,
that kind of thing.
And they're good at that.
And they've dealt with developers on handling the environmental issues to make sure they pass CEQA and all the different
All
things
the,
that are
the
going.
frogs are in the right place.
Yeah. The California gnatcatcher bird.
Yeah, all that.
All of it.
All of that.
Well, yeah, I don't have enough time to explain the list.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah. So because when Strawberry got built, I remembered this because I was lucky to be there. There are a lot of you can't walk here areas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and there still is.
Yes.
Yeah, not as many as there were.
Well, they're still there, but people have a tendency to turn a blind eye. But most of the issues, because now the California gnatcatcher has been taken off the endangered species.
Gotcha.
We still have, anybody's played golf out there, you could see it, you'll come across a cage and you see birds in the cage and things as that. We actually, on the property, had to catch every year all the brown birds because they ate the eggs of the California gnatcatcher.
Oh.
So we would have to catch them and euthanize the brown birds. And so the gnatcatcher wouldn't have their eggs eaten.
Wait, you're doing all this on top of a bankruptcy, on top of a sewer line.
Yes,
You're also doing birds.
And then we also had to do 14 acres. That every time we took a coastal sagebrush out, we had to replace it with 3. So the county had 14 acres down the street, which they've been trying to regrow and couldn't. So they gave it to us to do, and we had 5 years to completely regrow that. And that's just right down University on the side where you'll see it's, even you drive by it today, I kind of chuckle every time I drive by it because I know what it costs to do all those things. But we had to throw that in on top of that. So Strawberry Farms was not an easy project by any means.
And that doesn't sound very easy. And then I want to make sure I caught this. You said once it got approved, you got a 5-0 vote.
Yes.
Okay, and then enter. I think I caught it. Pickup Lane Donovan.
Correct.
Okay, so it's got to be Dick Pickup,
Dick Pickup.
Bobby Lane, or
No,
Ron Lane.
Ron Lane. Yes.
and Bill Donovan.
That's it.
Okay, so they come because you need investors now. Right?
Yes.
You got to build.
We're going to build.
Okay, so then it's the 4 of you. Is that right?
Yes.
Is there anyone else involved?
Myself and financially, those were the only 4.
Okay.
Financially.
All right. So here you guys go. And that must have been an easy sale because those 3 guys look like they can't wait to do something like that. It's particularly after a 5-0 vote.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
you were
They didn't think I was going to get the vote. When I got the 5-0 vote, they were impressed. They said, "Okay, all right, you can do that. We're going with you."
That's really cool. But before that, you're funding it yourself.
Yes,
You're
the whole
doing all
thing.
this. And John and Hardy are consultants.
They're just they're partners, but their job was the environmental consultant
Perfect.
area.
Okay. That
Because I couldn't develop, do all those things, and worry about what all the laws are for environmental procedures, and they were the experts in that.
they got you
not
through
me.
it. They got you through it.
Yeah, they had to. It was a major part.
Yeah. Well, I remember walking the course before it was finished, and not being a golfer. I play golf now, but I'm still not a golfer. But I didn't even like golf then. But they'd hired me to do the website and do marketing, and they were just showing me all these things. And that was in '97.
It opened in '97.
Yeah.
Yes. So it opened November '97. So that was just prior to the opening. You were walking through and doing your deal. I remember it clearly.
And you had Arnold Palmer.
No.
No.
We had Arnold Palmer Management.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting.
The operator.
That was thrown in at the last second by that water district because they said, even though we're going to spend the $15 million to build everything, and make it all happen. We don't trust you to manage it.
So
I looked at them and I went, what? And so they made me hire a management group. So I hired Arnold Palmer Golf Management.
That's what I remember, yeah.
Okay. And turned out that 2 years later I fired them and I ran it the whole time.
God, okay. Awesome. It wasn't a good fit. Who was the architect?
The architect was a gentleman named Jim Lipe. Now, Jim Lipe is Jack Nicklaus's senior special designer for all his high-end courses. Jim was the one responsible for drawing and working Jack on hole number 5 at Pebble Beach. He did all of Lyle Anderson's work, which is, you know, Desert Mountain and
Pinehurst too.
Yeah, and
all that.
All the redos.
Yeah.
Jim Lipe was Nicklaus's right-hand guy.
Jim Lipe.
But he had a contract. If Jack wasn't involved, he could do one golf course a year outside of Jack just on his own. And when I was convinced that I interviewed Jack, but you know, he wanted, you know, X amount of dollars to fly his G5 out every time. And I said, I don't think this is going to work. But I got Jim, which was everything. And I loved working with Jim Lipe, and he did a phenomenal job, I think. I mean,
that's great.
I think Strawberry Farms, and I know I built it, but I had a lot of love and everything. But we had to go through, and to get that course in there and have it turn out like it did, Jim Lipe was the right guy, and it was fabulous.
And you loved working with him.
Yeah.
That must be really fun. I mean, like you're 9 years old again, telling your dad you're going to be a construction guy.
I never thought I'd build a golf course, be a golf course builder, but I did.
And you're doing it with Jim, one of the best in the business, and you've got all of these. I mean, it's a beautiful course. It really is. I mean, it's
different than any other public course around.
It is, and it's still got those environmental areas. Mm-hmm. And it still has that red barn, which is just iconic and busy every weekend.
I have to, you know, my wife and I were spilling around names, and it was just off of Sand Canyon, and one of the guys said, well, let's just have a Sand Canyon golf course. I said, no, I don't want sand in golf. That's a negative.
Good point.
Anybody who golfed that plays golf enough, they don't like sand that much. So I said, no, that's that. And it was Strawberry, you know, part of it were the Strawberry Farms area. And so I said, let's take this, because one of the designs was to have the clubhouse right on University. And I said, no, you know what we need? Let's take it all the way back. And the land planners were really on that once we decided to go away from being right there. So we took it all the way back so we could have 9 holes on the front and 9 holes on the back. But my idea was to get everybody away. Like, okay, you've got a couple of miles away, you got high-rise office buildings and metropolis going on. I wanted, when you got to Strawberry and you got back there, you knew you were in a different place, and it didn't look like Southern California.
No, that's what you did. Yeah, it's true.
And that's the whole idea. So then it became Strawberry Farms, and I remember Dick Pickup the first time he did that. He looked at me and he goes, "What?" But when we came, my wife designed the logo, and we went on from there. And you know, the whole barn concept was basically the cart barn, and then when we had banquets, we'd keep the carts out and do that. But interesting enough, over time, was that the use of the barn was so needed that we ended up putting the carts outside anyway, and just left that and fixed it for banquets and weddings and whatever else.
I've been there where Allison is showing a potential a bride and it's over.
Yeah.
They see that barn and they're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an amazing, iconic center of that property.
And you know, and I give a lot of credit for some of the wedding planners as well, and our staff. You know, a lot of the people that I hired are still working there today, which says a lot.
Patty's still there.
Patty's the GM, and Allison's still there. And,
Allison's still there.
yeah, and Rudy's still cooking
Oh,
the
can
food.
can we talk about Rick? It's hard not to talk
Yes.
about Strawberry.
Yeah.
So Arnold Palmer Golf is a short termer.
Well, and Rick was working for Arnold Palmer Golf.
Oh, so Rick was there at the beginning with Arnold Palmer.
Well, not at the very start.
He was somewhere else.
He was somewhere else, and then they brought him in because they were having trouble because they were trying to run everything out of Florida, and it really wasn't working. But they brought Rick in to handle the things, and then by the time Rick was trying to decipher all the different issues, and we had tax season coming up, I mean, we had to, do a lot of things. And I'm so involved, and I just got so frustrated. But I worked with Rick, and I recognized his talent. And so I went to Arnold Palmer Golf, and I said, look, our contract's going to be over. You're going to waive this off, and I'm going to keep Rick, and I'll let you guys go so I don't sue you. Because that's how bad we wouldn't have been able to do our finances. We wouldn't have been able to file the proper taxes.
They just didn't manage it.
They did not manage it, and it was a mess. And so I had to bring on a whole another group, but Rick and I headed that together, and I recognized his talent, and I went, the one thing that I found out about being a professional baseball player is you could be a great player, but you're not going to win if you don't have teammates. And Rick filled the bill as a solid teammate, and he ended up working there 17 years for me.
Yeah, I was going to guess 20, but
he was like 17 or 18 years
yeah, he
before
was just
he
there.
left.
Yeah, well, I just remember, I worked with him forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was, and he took the bull and held on to the horns and rode it through and did a great job. And so did our grounds crew people and whatever. It was, we had a team. There's 125 people worked at that golf course at one time. That's a lot of personnel.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of different categories.
Okay. A couple FAQs that I've had thrown at me where I just didn't know the answer, so I'm going to ask you. Was there ever a plan for 9 or 18 more? Or has it always been 18?
No. It was originally going to be, it was 18 with the additional 9.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Tell
the
me about
additional
that.
9 is exactly where Tanaka Farms is right now.
Oh, so it's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen.
Here's what happened. I had gone through the Irvine system and everything. Jim Lipe and I designed, 9 holes, and it was going to be, I thought it was going to be really beautiful because it went up the saddle. You wouldn't have been able to see it at all from the freeway, so it was all going to be protected in the hills, and the mountaintops were not going to be bothered at all, but it was going to be a great night. It was right at the end of the driving range, and you would start that way and finish right there and then come back to the clubhouse, and it was just 9 holes. So having 27 holes is almost better than 36 because you can always play 18 and shut down 9 and work on that 9 with nobody and get maximum effort out of fixing that 9 and getting it prepped, and then you can rotate to the next and to the next. And I thought it was going to be great. And then the Irvine company stepped in and said, no, we don't want to lose, we don't want to lose our lease with Tanaka over here, over your golf. And then the time I went into City Hall, there's a name guy, Larry Agron, who still happens to be mayor today. I don't know how he's still mayor today because he's not high on my list as far as integrity, but because I found out that he played a game, and the day I came in, he was responsible for getting all the environmental people from Southern California at the meeting. So there was 350 environmental people booing me every word I said, and the council caved.
We want
and
Brooks.
he knew the whole time.
Brooks. So what?
Yeah.
You played right through it. You played right through it.
So at that one, there was nothing I could do.
Right.
And so then Tanaka, look what and you know what? I look now. I think Tanaka Farms does a great service. he's done a phenomenal job there today with, having kids come out to a farm-like atmosphere and, do the things he does. But golfers would have much preferred the other 9 holes.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to like Tanaka Farms.
No,
it's hard
not
to like. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So
I want to give credit to Tanaka because
it all worked out.
They really did a good job.
Yeah, great job. All right, 1 or 2 softballs. Okay, what's your favorite hole, and then what's the hole that you consistently had the most success at?
Most success at?
Yeah, like the one that you kind of owned the hole.
Well, I think my favorite hole on the golf course is 18. I think I can tell you how the waterfall got there.
Yeah, tell me.
I go out and it's pouring rain, and I've got my lab with me, and I'm just going to walk before we start. And as I'm walking, I came over the hill, because the 18th green, for those who have played it, is completely chipped out of a mountain. And I knew we were going to do that. But what I didn't know is that corner, because it was raining, there was a natural waterfall falling there. It wasn't as big as it is today, but it was a natural waterfall. And I went, wow. And so then I kept walking around, and the Irvine Company had their bull and all the cattle back around there. And I remember it's pouring down rain, and my dog and I walked right into the bull, and he wasn't happy that he saw us. And I said, I turned and got out of there. But the benefit of that day was clearly. So I came back, and I said, okay, this is where the 18th hole is going to be. We're going to chip this out. Part of the reason we had to chip that out is I had to stick a gravity flow sewer from that handles all of Shady Canyon all the way down, that goes all the way to University.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew we were going to do that, and I said, this will be perfect. And so we pulled the water. We got a huge pump. We pulled the water out of the reservoir and pumped it all the way back up and carved and made a natural waterfall, and it looks exactly natural. I was really proud of how that finished out.
That's a great answer.
So that's my, I would say that.
It's probably not the hole you own, though, because that is a difficult hole.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's the one that you shoot the best at? There's one just kind of you fall into every time.
Well, I really like number 4, and I seem to do it's that long par 4.
Yeah.
But the angle, the green, and everything fits for me,
yeah.
and I've had success.
It's been the one handicap for a while. 1 or 3.
And I've had that success, but and I also like playing number 3. I think I had a hole in one there, so from the black tees one time, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good.
It's pretty fun.
My foursome was pretty good too. It was Mark McGuire, Wally Joyner, and Mike Witt was my foursome.
That's good.
We won some money because of it. But anyway,
that's good. Gosh, Doug, I am so thankful you're here, and this was a great story. It's a great story about a 9-year-old boy that lived out 2 dreams.
Yep.
And it seems like, it's just, a lot of people are really, that golf course is busy. And a lot of people will watch this because a lot of people have questions. How did this all start? There's a lot of almost the right stories. And I'm thankful that you came in and told it how it happened,
Well, and when you actually have your hands involved in it, and I was there, I would drop a ball on the dirt and hit it to see what the wind was doing, and play it. And it just so when you're that involved on the entire thing and working constantly, to me, I was proud. I think I look back now, and every once in a while I'll drive up on the dam and look back and forth and see it. And, I felt it was something that I look back and I say it's still here today. And you know what? The amount of money that golf course has raised for the community for different charities is another thing I'm really proud about. It's something that was part of the thing that I negotiated when we had charity events. The county and the water district had to take a knockdown off of their percentage because it was going to a charity. And that was one of my negotiations that the county, when they were in bankruptcy, thought was a good political move. And to this day, it's still operating that exact way. And millions of dollars have been raised there for charity over the past 26 years.
Okay. All right. Doug DeCinces, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, maybe see you out there.
And if there's kids out there, don't give up your dream, kids.
Yeah.
I'm a living example. I never gave up on my dream.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Jason.
Thanks a lot, man.